School expelled me for mom's anger. We sued the county and caused a reform. So I have a really bad leg. I've had 13 surgeries, long story, and had just started at a new school. After the first 3 weeks, I had to go in for another procedure on my leg. Not that big a deal to me, I've been here before. Upon my return I had documentation of my restrictions, as well as special amenities that were required. The big three were that I needed extra time to get from class to class, must have someone to escort me, and needed unrestricted access to the elevator. All of these got me recurring problems such as constant harassment by teachers and security about my being in the halls during class time. And why was my cousin out too? He was filling the role as my escort, as I have anxiety problems and we had the same classes. These first two were annoying, but easy enough to deal with. The real issue was the elevator, as I was told multiple times that for security issues I couldn't have a personal key due to it sharing the same functionality with the interior door keys. I would never have had any issues with this, as I was told there would always be someone on the same floor as my classes to open the elevator for me. This of course, was untrue about 75% of the time. The lack of elevator access meant that I was always stuck in the halls when other students were going class to class, and was consistently late due to having to wait for someone to come by and open the door for the elevator. This also meant that I would sometimes be stuck waiting through the entire lunch period, and due to my absences couldn't afford to simply go to lunch after the fact. After about 3 weeks of this, I was tired of not getting to eat lunch. So I did one of the stupidest things I could have attempted and tried to use the stairs. For context, I was not on crutches, I was on a full-blown walker. About halfway down to the landing, I fell hard. As lunch was letting out, one of my friends found me, got someone to help pick me up, and carried me to the office. Another of my friends went to find my other cousin. The one who normally escorted me wasn't there due to being sick, so I was without escort because I couldn't bear the though of gasp a stranger escorting me, who when getting to the office managed to get me to calm down enough to give them my mother's number. Now, my mother is quite hot-tempered, but can keep a level head normally. When she heard I fell, she was there in record time. When she got there, she immediately asked what happened. I told her I didn't want to miss lunch again, so I tried to use the stairs. Big mistake, as that set off a Tsar Bomba-sized explosive. She immediately turned around, and demanded for the principal and VP to get their asses in here ASAP. As soon as the principal and VP walked in, she started berating them in a fashion not suitable for most adults to hear, let alone kids. When the VP made an offhand remark about my condition, my mother was swarmed by local sheriffs that provided security for the school's entrances and office as she physically went after the VP. We were escorted out, and after looking at the file and realizing my cousin and I had the same address, they figured out that I didn't actually live there. Now, my grandmother's address was listed as she looked after me after I left school up until around 8 p.m. She also was raising my cousin after an issue between her and my aunt. They used this as grounds to expel me, and told her, I can be some other school's problem now. I was then enrolled at the school near my house, and had to have yet another surgery to repair the damage that was done as a result of my fall, and redo the work of the previous procedure. I had gotten multiple statements from teachers as well as my doctors, and my parents were moving forward with a lawsuit naming the VP, principal, and the county school board. We were contacted by a lawyer who had won multiple cases against our school board, some of which went to the state Supreme Court, and he told us he would take our case pro bono. He was getting tired of going against the board, and though a case like this would be what it took to try and fix their shit. Fast forward 9 months, and I was walking out of court with a settlement to cover all my procedures, as well as a written confirmation that the school would be going through a complete administrative overhaul, and that the principal and VP would be let go, and have their administrative credentials revoked in our state. My new school was let know day one my medical requirements and my need for a personal elevator key by the superintendent and the head of the State Board of Education. Most elevator locks in this case are actually key switches, and are a bit pricier, and much harder to rekey. However, a new key switch is relatively easy to switch in, and the labor cost for that would be trivial. The real expense would be in doing it the right way to maintain the single key convenience for the teachers, admins, and having a new key system installed, with levels of privilege and separation of same. After all, admins need to be able to open the office, but probably not most classrooms. The gym teacher doesn't need access to the chemical storeroom. So what you do is design a family of keys that are similar, such that wafers in the locks will allow different keys from the family to operate them, so that a teacher can use a single key for all their doors, but the elevator key only works on the elevators, and the teachers, for instance, can't open the record room. It's a non-trivial expense to have it designed, and an even larger one to have it installed universally, and tested, to ensure that the locks were installed in the right places. But that's the way you're supposed to do it. If you do it right, you can even have elevator keys that work in all the buildings for the district, etc., without issue. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. I was hit by a drunk driver in 6th grade and my left leg was smashed all to bits. I had a lot of surgeries, etc., and leg braces and crutches. The first week back at school after months being out and the school being made fully aware of all my injuries and restrictions, the gym teacher thought it would be smart to lift me up by the knees to do a pull-up. Jerk pulled out all my stitches in the knee and had me bleeding like a fountain. My father had about the same reaction as your mother when he got to the school. I'm convinced the only reason he wasn't arrested was because he was in his military uniform and the police cut him some slack. Hope you're doing better with your leg now. Good for you and your mother and the lawyer for not letting them get away with their negligence. Sorry to hear about your struggles, and a hilarious coincidence. My bad leg is also my left one. Looking into a full knee replacement within the next year. Hope that gets me back to some form of normal. As far as your father, I can only imagine if I'd had called my grandfather, as he is a Vietnam vet that retired out after 40 years, and currently serves as a chief of police for one of the county's smaller departments. My dad just got a full knee replacement. 7:30 a.m. in surgery. 9:30 a.m. out. 10:30 a.m. Pacific time and walking upstairs. Noon he's back home. He's an old guy and was fairly sedentary before the surgery and is doing great just a couple weeks out. Surgery sucks, you know, but the new 3D imaged and milled replacement knees are. The bee's knees. Nurse here, it's been many moons since I've observed, but ortho surgery is one of the most violent and cringy suck your nuts into your gut even if you're a woman things you can have done. I'm glad to hear that there's been progress being made to make it a bit gentler to the patient. Total hip patients always ended up bruised from waist to mid-calf, ankle. Principals and VPS can be bullies. When I was in HS myself, I was labeled as a troublemaker. I was just nice, talkative, and sensitive. Made me an easy target. Mr. Kleiman, VP, who I would affectionately call Mr. Climax, made my life a living hell. I was labeled as a troublemaker too, but I was bullied. It was only later in life that I realized the bullied kids seemed to be labeled the troublesome ones and that the teachers were playing the popularity contest games just as much as the students. The Spanish teacher would literally flirt with the guys. The cool and/or rich kids got away with murder. I was also bullied heavily in high school and dealt with a ton of racism. Most people didn't give a shit. It really fucked me up for a long time. Although as an adult I've been able to forgive and let go. Not to mention, many of those kids that were bullying me were just projecting all their bullshit and abuse they have gone through. I don't understand the elevator restriction. This was 30-some years ago, so maybe things have changed. I cut my knee pretty bad and had to be in a brace for a while to keep me from ripping out the stitches or reopening the wound. My school just gave me an elevator pass to show to anyone who asked why I using the elevator. No key or any of that nonsense. And no one ever questioned me because it was pretty obvious why I was using the elevator. I started having knee problems in high school and needed the elevator key, but I wasn't on crutches or in need of someone to help. Then in my last year I fell and broke my back. Again, no crutches or anything. Just need to be careful and not haul my ass up over the staircase between every period. I spent the entire last 2 years of school being harassed by the student aides who assisted the kids with more significant disabilities because, you aren't supposed to have a key. There was only a few of them, it was over 2 years in a relatively small school. There is no way they didn't already know my face after the second week of this shit. This all made no difference. People suck and a lot of them for some reason want nothing more than to catch you so they can judge your disability for themselves. See if you are disabled enough to be allowed to have accommodation, as if it takes away from others to allow you to have any dignity. I have since taken up walking with a cane I don't need on bad days, so if I need a seat on the bus I won't have to start an actual literal argument with some random stranger who has a bug up their ass today. I may be a salty motherfucker about any sort of disability support access issues, and the older I get, the saltier I find myself getting. It's not okay to make the lives of people who have disabilities more difficult and frustrating, and then pat yourself on the back for defending that disabled parking space, or something to that effect. Stop being an asshole.